It is a beautiful day, a wonderful day, a joyous day for gaming news, discussion of interesting tidbits and factoids. And there's nobody better to do it with than the one and only
Whoa.
Joel Raptor. How are you doing?
Hey, hey.
Yeah.
Good to be here. Good to see you back in the studio.
Ooh.
I hope you still had a great holiday the last time we spoke.
Yeah, no, it was lovely. For those of you not familiar, or maybe you missed last week, I went on a nice little getaway for whatever, maybe 5 days, 6 days. We went to visit Nikki's 93-year-old grandmother. So she got to meet her great grandchild. Yeah, not great grandchild. She does have a handful of great grandchildren, because Nikki's mom is actually the youngest of a handful of kids. So it's really odd. Like Nikki's mom, so my in-law, has sisters who are like 25, 30 years older than her. So it's a really interesting family dynamic whenever we go out to visit them. But it's in the middle of nowhere in Minnesota. It's very nice. But like, you're talking about a place where there is a restaurant within like an hour. So like, there's a store. There's no choice. And like, coming from a big city or a bigger city, with a lot of people where I'm at in Colorado, it's just, I mean, it's an adjustment. It's really an adjustment, but it's good for a vacation because you get away. You cannot go out if you want to. There's no sushi. Like, you're not getting sushi out there.
But still, like you said last week as well, that the internet was really solid there. That's kind of surprising with everything else you said there.
It's a little heartbreaking because I pay a lot for my internet where I live right now. And even then, regular outages, my upload speed is maxed out at 30 megabit per second, and then download I can get a gigabit. I pay a lot for a gigabit down, but I can only do 30 up. But this resort, they just upgraded their stuff, and so they have like 500 up and down in each of the rooms. I'm like, okay, this is ridiculous. Like, come on, dude. But the free internet is way better. But it was 500. Good. Yeah, it was good. It was a good time, and the fact we were able to hang out here was awesome. And yeah. So I'm glad to be back. I do feel very rejuvenated.
That's good. Yeah, I got some holidays coming up as well. Yeah, I got Barcelona.
Oh, dude.
Not next week, but the week after. But I will still be able to do the show, so that's great. And in August, I will be gone for 1 week to Italy. So going with different groups of friends, chilling out. It's probably gonna be super hot there, but I'm excited to get out as well, because July is usually not a lot happening, and we got a ton of stuff for the rest of the year. So getting out and chilling out.
Dude, I'm so jealous you're getting to, like, I traveled to the middle of nowhere in Minnesota, which was lovely. It was a great chance to relax and visit family. But I've always wanted to like really travel, go to really interesting places. And don't hate me, guys, or hate on me, guys. I still have never been out of the country. I've never been out of the US. And it's not for lack of trying. Nikki and I were going to go on our honeymoon back in 2020, late 2020. We were going to go out to Iceland, and then before that, the UK, Ireland, all that. I was going to get to go to the Guinness factory, the place where the holy nectar is brewed. And it was all canceled because of COVID. So we couldn't do that. So I'm still just very isolated, but one day I'll
also with the kids, it's like harder to make these long flights. It's like not really nice, or like travel a lot between places.
It's trickier. I will give Lachlan James and Orion Wild a shout out. Those two little buggers did great traveling, no real issue. Lachlan, at this point, I think it's because we've traveled so much with him, he just gets it. He knows what to do. So he gets on the airplane, he says hi to the pilot, and then he walks down the aisle, and everybody's like, oh, you're doing so good. And he's like, yeah, I know, I'm pretty cool. So he just walks down and gets his seat, and then he watches Blue's Clues the whole flight. It's honestly not as bad as I think a lot of people make it out to be, but I think it's because we started early, we've traveled a lot with them. So
that's a good point.
It's not weird to him, you know. He's like, oh yeah, we go on a plane. It's super cool.
because it can go the other way. Like I remember just seeing like parents just up for 14 hours from like the US to Amsterdam because their kids would just always cry. So I luckily had a noise canceling headphone, but not everyone was that lucky.
It's a worthy investment. Yeah.
For sure.
One other thing I will tell everybody about this week that I've gotten into, and you have permission to make fun of me for this one, okay? Because it's bad. Okay.
Do I need permission though?
No, you never need permission. You can do whatever you want. I have a buddy, Caleb. He's my best bro from high school. I've known him at this point like over a decade, which when you're this young is exceptional. So I've known him for a long time, and he has been trying for a while to get me into Warhammer. Really trying, because he got into it and he's been slowly building up an army and playing every weekend and having a really good time. And he's like, dude, you gotta try it. There's a faction built for you, the Thousand Sons. It's inspired by ancient Egypt. You love Assassin's Creed Origins, you love ancient Egypt. It's perfect for you. And so I was like, okay, maybe. And finally I was like, you know what, screw it, we can build them on stream. I even set up like an extra side camera for when we're streaming just for that. Do I even have that camera up? I don't know if I do. Face back. Yeah. Like I have a separate camera that's way overexposed. There we go. Just for building the miniatures and stuff. So I've jumped into it. It's bad. There's 2 bins already full of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
A carrying case full of stuff, and we're getting into it, boys. It's bad.
You're like, I'm gonna do it, and I'm gonna do it like good. I'm not even going to check if I even like it.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna buy everything already. I like that approach.
I keep joking with him. Yeah. I'm like, I
you
better
can
like
go
this.
back now.
Yeah,
I better like
I was telling him, like, we're going to play this for 15 years. We're going to get really into it. And then I'm going to tell you on my deathbed, I hate that game so much, but I got in too deep. And that's good.
Yeah.
But, if you're going to do it, you got to just go for it. Part of it is, like, Warhammer's an expensive hobby.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's a reason people, like, joke about going broke once they get into it, but it's because there's a lot of steps. You have to get the minifigures. You can build like smaller armies that are worth like 1,000 points, because each character, like if it's a little grunt, it might be worth 50 points, and then really big crazy characters that are really powerful are worth 420 or something. And so you build out your army, and some armies get crazy. They get to like 3,000 points. Some people do custom games where they go 5,000, and those armies are each worth thousands of dollars, but it doesn't have to be.
I today ordered a lot of Magic the Gathering cards, so I'm kind of in the same boat. The only difference is that I just unpack them and I can play. Yeah. And I like that's what I like. I don't want to that's not for me. Like the painting and stuff. I don't even like Legos for that reason. I just want the thing on the box. I don't want to build that.
You're like, I'm paying you. Give me something complete.
I was more. How do you say that in English? Like play mobile. Is that? Oh no, I think it's complete. It has like a completely different. It's like the other. Okay, I'm gonna look it up. Let's continue with the show. Okay.
Yeah. No, you're good. Thank you, Lord Kev, for the super chat. By the way, should we schedule the Warhammer intervention yet? Yeah, probably. It's pretty. It's pretty bad. I mean, I just figured if we're gonna do it, let's do it. I already like the painting. The one thing is, do you guys remember, this kind of segues into some of our topics. Do you guys remember the Assassin's Creed Brotherhood of Venice thing that they did?
Like the board game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the board game,
it's like Playmobil. Is it like a thing? Do you know that?
Oh, Playmobil. Yeah. It's like those are mostly kids' toys, I think.
Yeah. But it was like back in my day, it was like, you either had Lego or Playmobil, and for Playmobil, it just came out of the box. You could just play, and you didn't have to build it. So
yeah,
that's why
that's what you prefer.
That.
But this,
I'm a weirdo like that. Either way, continue.
Yeah,
we got a lot of super chats, by the way.
Oh Jesus! We'll work through them, guys. I promise. I was just gonna show you this Brotherhood of Venice thing. If you've never heard of it, it's actually pretty cool. It's like a tabletop game with minifigures. If you like Assassin's Creed stuff, it's pretty awesome. And I was like an early backer to this, because it started on Kickstarter and eventually blew up to this whole thing. So they sent me the whole kit and caboodle, like the whole thing. It takes up a whole tub of the different pieces and stuff, and I haven't painted all of it. It's ridiculous. But back when they sent it to me, I got a bunch of painting stuff because they show up as these little gray figurines and minifigures. At least these you don't have to assemble. The Warhammer stuff you have to like glue together using plastic cement and stuff. It's pretty, I mean, it's an ordeal, but it's a good time, and it's just cool to play like a board game that is yours. Like the characters you built, you painted, they are yours. It's nobody has anything like it. It's specific to you, which is pretty awesome.
It really reminds me of something that I backed, the Horizon board game.
Ooh.
But as you can see, it's still in the
still shrink wrap.
I still need to open it because it's very intimidating. I also was like a backer for that, and I got every possible expansion. So I think in this like regular version, there are only like some regular characters, but there are like some very big machines that are like in expansions, like the Thunderjaw and stuff like that. So these are all in similar boxes. I can like quickly turn over I don't have like the fancy cams that you have, so I will just like move. I probably should not, but just imagine like 8 of those boxes standing behind.
How long have you had them?
It was kind of crazy because again, Kickstarter that of course takes like multiple years to come into fruition and to send them. So I at one point got like this random message from like a random person. I was like, "Who are you?" And he was like, "I got this package for you," and this was a person that lived in not my previous house, but the house before that. So everything got sent to like a very old address because when I bought it on Kickstarter, it was like a few years ago, and yeah, they all sent it there. So I had to go to my old place where now someone else was living, with like
little awkward.
Little awkward. Why do you need all these boxes? But hey, I got it. But it has been like a year or something. Yeah. I don't know. It's like very intimidating. When do I start? But I should, because I do think it's cool. I just never hear someone talk about it. So that's kind of...
It's probably because everybody else is also intimidated. So you just have to take the bull by the horns. We'll do a segment on the show about it. I can talk about how much I like, how I'm in too deep with Warhammer, and then you can talk about that, and it'll be a good time.
I like the smaller games. I left like the Bloodborne card game as well. That's like a tiny box. Everything is included, and it's amazing. So if you are looking for like a cool small game, I recommend the Bloodborne card game. But let's talk about some actual games.
Yeah,
or do the super.
Yeah, I'll run through these real quick. For Alphatron, thank you for the $9.99, very generous. Heard a rumor that Sony is trying to get that Crimson Desert game as an exclusive. So yeah, the exclusive stuff won't stop with Sony, but they have the nerve to be complaining. Yeah, we'll touch on that when we discuss what happened with the FTC this past week. As I've said before, the argument for like exclusives being bad for the industry, I think is really valid. It's just that Sony and PlayStation are the worst possible people to make that argument.
I don't agree with exclusives being bad though for the industry. Like maybe third-party exclusives, but like full-on PS5 or Xbox exclusives, like
first-party
even
exclusives.
said it. Yeah. First-party exclusives, I wouldn't call bad because I do think it actually pushes those developers or those companies even more to really make something special, because it's gonna be more than just a good game that sells, or like the game that they can sell, but also should be like really pushing people to buy this $500 hardware.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's like you said, the third party, like when Sony comes in and just pays for a year exclusivity to their platform. I think that sucks. Yeah. But we'll get into all of that. Thank you, by the way, everybody that's coming in. I'm glad to see Kieran, Nell, Kimbis, Eric, Prince,
thanks.
Serious, everybody.
Hello.
Thank you. Sophie's here. That's wonderful. Thank you, Joaquim, for 5 months. Yeah, 5 months flown by. Wow. Jeez.
Woo!
That's crazy. Nashman, thank you also for the £2. Hey guys, hope you are both well. Love the collab. Oh, I love it too, my friend.
Appreciate it.
I love it too. So Yeah, let's get into some little tidbits of news. The first thing that's probably worth running through, I made a video on this. You've probably seen it by now, so we won't dwell on it too much, but just in case you missed it or are looking for our thoughts, the FTC court battle over the Activision Blizzard acquisition has been settled by the judge, Judge Corley, and effectively the judge said, nope, we're not going to intervene. Specifically, the part that is kind of key is this bit right here. Quote, this court's responsibility in this case is narrow. It is to decide if, notwithstanding these current circumstances, the merger should be halted, perhaps even terminated, pending the resolution of the FTC administrative action. For the reasons explained, which were a bunch, the court finds that the FTC has not shown a likelihood that it will prevail on its claim that this particular vertical merger in this specific industry may substantially lessen competition. To the contrary, the record evidence points to more consumer access to Call of Duty and other Activision content. The motion for a preliminary injunction is therefore denied, meaning that the FTC's lawsuit to block the acquisition from going through has been shut down, and they can technically appeal, but in order to appeal to the Ninth Circuit has to effectively say, yeah, we'll take this case on, or they can immediately just say, no, we're not interested, and shut it down and send it back down, in which case the prior court ruling stands, which most experts seem to think is what's going to happen here.
It seems that the FTC is known for like not appealing afterwards. So yeah, this is probably it. So it's finally gonna happen. Although there's like a whole UK wrinkle still to this, with the CMA, of course, over there, still like having concerns regarding cloud gaming. That like Microsoft, while like they are of course like already at the forefront of the cloud gaming, like the cloud gaming market super small. With xCloud, you can of course stream Game Pass games to a lot of platforms, and they are afraid that if they have Activision as well, they will become this huge player on that still like early market. But yeah, they're the only country right now that is blocking them, so they kind of look stupid. And I do think that Microsoft will either find a way to make some changes so that the UK finds it okay, or they will, like we discussed in previous episodes, or that other experts have been saying as well, do something weird with Activision, that it like leaves the UK or something, like that they will publish those games through a different. They probably have a ton of like things in mind. I don't think this will stop them from.
I totally agree. Wall Street seems pretty confident that this is going through. You can see before
stocks are rising.
The stonks have risen. The stonks have risen. Before the news broke, this ATVI was trading at 82, and right as the news broke, it shot all the way up right around 92. And just to give you an idea of why that's important, Microsoft offered 95 a share. So in a perfect world with zero risk, if this deal was announced to be closing in 30 seconds, the stock would jump up to 95, because that's what the fair value would be. Yeah. The only reason it's not there is because of the risk involved with potentially the deal shifting. It might change a little bit. They might break off something. But most people and most experts that I've heard talk about this through Bloomberg or other financial sites that I'm addicted to, most of them say that they're going to shove this through. There's no way that they let a $70 billion deal fall apart because the UK is throwing a hissy fit. Most likely what happens, like Joe Raptor said, is that they shove the deal through. They say, okay, UK, suck it up, or we're just going to pull operations out, and we'll use shell companies to basically sell our games in those markets. And that's just what it's going to be. I highly doubt that it causes any problems. The FTC was a bigger deal because the FTC, of course, is where these companies are headquartered, and where Microsoft is headquartered. So injunctions and things like that are a big deal in home countries. But for the UK to throw a fit, it's not that big of a deal in the grand scheme of these multi-billion-dollar multinational companies.
So the question now is, what happens now? What like, I thought it was interesting that I looked this up, and the moment that they actually like closed the Bethesda deal, 2 days later those games started showing up on Game Pass. 2 days. So you think something similar is going to happen here? And
Yeah.
of course, we have the other wrinkle. Like, we actually have Spencer here with a super chat that you should
Oh,
read
yeah.
in a second as well. But about like, what is Sony going to do now? Like, I see some people saying here in the chat, like, oh, they're continuing with the third party stuff. I would argue that now that this deal is closed, it's like game is on. Like they're gonna do way more exclusive stuff like that.
Yeah, I think the Jim Ryan emails that were released as part of this were pretty telling. For those of you that might have missed that show, basically some emails were released that showed Jim Ryan talking behind closed doors to his coworkers, peers, and employees. And Jim Ryan within PlayStation said, "Oh no, we're going to be fine. It's not that big of a deal." He's like, "We don't want the deal to go through. We'd prefer it not go through because the deal is good for Microsoft and good for Xbox," which when you're competitors, I mean, of course you want your competitor to do worse. So if there's a deal that's good for them, you don't want it to go through. But Jim Ryan was like, "No, we're still doing our thing. They're going to do their thing, but we're not too worried." So I would expect that PlayStation Now is probably going to be trying to rev stuff up. They've already talked about trying to expand their live service elements and things. And whether that means that they also start trying to acquire smaller companies like Sega or something, I am a little hesitant to jump onto that. It seems like Sony is mostly right now, if they're going to acquire something, they want to acquire live service companies, which is why that Bungie deal made so much sense. So
yeah, and actually, there's like it just like hot off the press is that they're actually just now are like they're adding 2 billion to the R&D war chest to focus on the live service R&D. So they're basically upping their investment that they were planning to do for this financial year. So before April 2024, into more live service stuff. Like 40% of its total R&D spending will be in the live service stuff.
yeah,
Which is kind of crazy.
it is I mean, that's a lot of money, but it just goes to show you they're putting their eggs in this basket. Okay, like we've said, they're not putting all their eggs. They have said that they're keeping the budgets for single player stuff the same. So presumably that means that the same quality and pace of stuff we got last gen will continue this gen. Probably one banger a year, maybe two. And what they're trying to do is to now also insert a hopefully banger live service game as well every year, or two a year, and we'll see if that works. Maybe it does. Maybe they just release a handful of really garbage live service games.
They should, because that's how you actually like make it in this market. You have to fail first. Like even like big games like Destiny, of course, failed first to get to this point. So they of course do have the knowledge from Bungie now, but you would think that not everything is gonna work out, or actually a lot will not work out.
Yeah.
But they only need 2 of them to be successful in that.
Exactly. They just need a whale. They need a whale.
Yeah.
To go back to this super chat from Spencer, thank you for the 5, my friend. Luke, what do you mean by Sony being the worst at it? Presumably referencing when I said Sony's the worst people to make the argument. They mostly create their own exclusives, not buy up third parties. Love your content, by the way. Oh, you're good, my friend. I appreciate the question. What I mean by Sony is the worst at making this argument, or the worst group to make this argument in the context we're discussing, is that Sony's going, or prior to this, Sony was going to regulators, and before this in the court hearings for the FTC lawsuit, they were going to court saying Microsoft is going to be taking franchises, they're going to be taking games and creating new IP as well, and then they're going to be releasing those exclusive to their Game Pass platform, not allowing PlayStation players to experience it. And that is bad for the industry because less players, and the verbiage they used in court was interesting. Their lawyers repeatedly, or their representatives repeatedly said, it will give less players the opportunity to play these games. Which is why
on the other hand, to counter that, because it does give companies like a huge sum of money, similar to going to Game Pass. You get like a ton of money up front. And of course, all these companies that are taking the deal with Sony, like for example, Square Enix with Forspoken, they probably got a ton of money to hopefully cover a lot of the development. Like I still think that game obviously did not do too hot, but they still got a ton of money up front already, which does help with some companies because of course the budgets are rising.
Yeah, and for some businesses and companies and devs, it probably does make a lot of sense to go and sign exclusivity deals, especially if it comes with a fat stack that helps finish development and marketing and all of that. So it can absolutely make sense for the companies involved, but Sony was trying to also argue at the same time that those exclusives were going to be bad for the consumers because less consumers could access the games. And what the court found was, well, that's not true, because just bringing it to xCloud means no longer do people need to buy a $550 console. They can just play on their phone. So clearly that means it's available to more people. But the reason I reference Sony being the worst group to make the argument is because they're describing all of this as really negative for the consumer, specifically with their verbiage of less players will have access to it, therefore it's bad. And Sony is the company, Sony is the group that specializes in that. They make some of the best games of the generation consistently. They're very good at making those games. But if they're going to argue that doing this thing is bad because less players get access to the games, well, then you have to also conclude that what they're doing by making God of War and Spider-Man and those games not cross-platform is bad because less players get access to it. So it's a dumb argument, which is why it failed. So that's
I think the mostly like having the Spider-Man be exclusive for the Avengers game, or like locking out a mode for Call of Duty, which they used to do. I think that's like even worse, because then you're basically the developers made this mode in this game, or like for Hogwarts Legacy, there's like this mission on PlayStation.
Oh, dude, that pissed me off so bad.
Yeah, only people on PlayStation can make it or can play it. But on PC, the files for that mission are in the game files, but you just can't access it. And they even had, when you did like Revelio, you would see like the blue door from the shop in Hogsmeade where you would start the mission, but you could not interact with it. Like, I think that's like really horrible, because I think for like saying God of War should be on multiple platforms, I don't know, because I don't think God of War would be as good as it is if it was on multiple platforms.
I agree.
But I do think that locking out content that would have been made otherwise from people that bought the same game for the same price, that sucks. And Sony is doing a lot of that. So
I totally agree.
I especially
I
hate
agree.
that part.
And I don't know why they don't get more heat for it. I remember making my big critique on Hogwarts Legacy and mentioning that. I was like, I wanted to play this because, for those of you that are not aware of it, the quest that PlayStation bought is widely considered the best side quest in the entire game.
It's the best part of the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really good. And my wife played it and was like, yeah, and then you get your own shop basically in Hogsmeade. It's super cool. And I went to try it on my PC to get footage for it, and you just can't. It's just not there. And I think they said it's coming after a year, but that's...
Yeah, so on February 10th or something, we'll unlock,
But like, that sucks ass. And somehow people are like, oh, well, it is what it is, so oh well. But I'm like, they should be getting raked across the coals. That's horrible.
Yeah, I agree. I want to argue, though, like devil's advocate here, because again, I totally agree, but I think this is an interesting point as well. How is it possible that mission in particular feels like a DLC? It feels like the particle effects, like the sort of puzzles that were specifically made for it, the horror sort of vibe. It really feels like a 1 hour DLC, because all the other side missions are in caves you could already go to otherwise. They don't have a lot of narrative elements going on. But this mission is like completely different. So I wonder if it would have been in the game if Sony gave them the money. Is that a weird theory, that they made this way later in development because Sony wanted something exclusive? Because it feels like something they made way later with like a lot of knowledge from making the main game.
Yeah. I mean, I would say it's totally possible. It's also possible that they were, because I've heard stories of this happen. I think I don't remember if it was Jason Schreier's book or one of the others. But I was reading a book on kind of a bunch of game development and history of it. And they were describing how a lot of games will build out DLC and then shop it around. Like back in 2010, if you remember, with Batman Arkham City. Batman Arkham City got a good amount of heat because the Catwoman side quest was exclusive to GameStop and elsewhere in the rest of the world. I'm sure it was like, Game in the UK or whatever else. But you had to buy the game through GameStop to get access to that quest, which if you played Arkham City, you know that it's a pretty elaborate, like there's a lot there. And it interweaves with the story, and it's like a big deal to not have access to it. Otherwise you pay $5 for it. And the devs allegedly, I don't think they've confirmed this, but the devs apparently worked on that quest line and then shopped it around to retailers and groups to see who wanted it as an exclusive bonus for their store. And so I wouldn't be surprised at all if they were doing something similar with this, where they developed that side quest and then shopped it around to like Sony to see if they wanted it, maybe to Epic, see if they want it as an exclusive bonus, and just go from there. And if they didn't find any partners, maybe just do it as a quick DLC a month after launch or something.
Yeah.
So
interesting. Yeah. I mean, and Sony is like, yeah, sure, we are known for this. Let's do it. People expect this from us now.
Yeah, they've conditioned everybody to it, which, I think that's one of the strengths for Sony and their business, is that they've conditioned players to get used to that exclusive stuff. Whereas I think Xbox is conditioned to just not really having decent games consistently. So once they start getting those, it's going to be really refreshing. But the other piece of this that's going to come back to bite them, Sony players and the people that are like rah for PlayStation are predominantly single player gamers. That's why they love Sony exclusives that are the third person adventure narrative games. And once Sony starts making some of their biggest releases in terms of marketing, live service titles, you've already seen it at this PlayStation showcase they did this summer. Not a great reception. People were not that thrilled because they're like, we were hoping for maybe a look at The Last of Us Part 3 or a look at Cory Barlog's new game or whatever else. And they instead start their show off with a sucky live service game. So
it's really weird because a lot of, like, for example, Bethesda knew that if they announced Fallout 76 without talking about their next single player RPG, that everyone would be like, what the heck, you're only making live service multiplayer games now, we want single player games. So that's why they announced Starfield and Elder Scrolls 6, of course, way in advance. And I find it weird that Sony didn't do that. Maybe they really think that people want those fair games and stuff like that.
Yeah, if that's the case, Oh, because that what was it? What that one that they opened the show with?
Yeah, Fair Games from Haven, and it was like really the show opener. Yeah, it was the one where they like steal from the billionaires. But if they see another group also stealing from the billionaires, they're killing those people because there can only be one group stealing from the billionaires that they both hate.
Yeah, they're like, no, it's okay if we do it. Yeah, it's not murder when it's a billionaire's security guards. That's always bugged me. Yeah, this thing just...
No, but it's not even like a security guard. It's like another group of like people that have the same beliefs that want to steal from the billionaire again. Instead of like working together, they're fighting each other to get the money. So they become billionaires.
It's so cringe. It's so cringe.
It's so weird.
It's so like fresh out of college, eat the rich, we're gonna do this, and then everybody dresses like a Watch Dogs 2 character. It's just bizarre. It's Robin Hood, but if Robin Hood's just murdering everybody who tries to do exactly what he's doing. It's like,
that's a good
point.
I
thought we were on the same team, man. Anyway, that's the whole thing. Yes, by the way, everybody, like the stream. It does really, really help with distribution, so we'd greatly appreciate that.
Moving on
Yeah.
To Guerrilla, let's stay a bit in the Sony camp. We, of course, talked about the live service stuff. And that's, I think, what happened as well when... so, like, the story today, Guerrilla Games did, like a sort of behind-the-scenes presentation for other developers. Some press was there in the room as well. And they basically talked about the development or, like, going from Killzone to Horizon to Forbidden West, how it is, like, hard to make a sequel. How can you recapture the magic of the first game when nobody had any expectations? They talked about that. One of the interesting things was that they almost like were on the verge of like canceling Flying because the game also had to come out on PS4. Luckily, they could make it work. Otherwise, that would have really sucked because that's one of the best parts of the game. And then they talked basically about the future as well. So what's happening beyond Forbidden West. We, of course, had the Burning Shores DLC earlier this year. And we know there's a third Horizon game coming. So we will get another Aloy adventure. But we did not know that is only one of 16 plans that they have for Horizon. So that's the news now. Guerrilla Games has 16 plans for Horizon, and they're also saying that they're gonna continue this for a long time. And let's start with that. Like 16 plans. Now it's not like games, so it could also be another Lego Thunderjaw. That could be one of the plans. Then a new comic book could be another part of the plans. But we do know a lot of other things that they already have in the works. Should I list that?
Yeah, go for it.
So I also put the tweet there that I put up in the doc. So the Horizon projects that we know about and that are rumored. So these are 6 of them. So again, they have 9 more that we don't know about. Horizon 3, the Horizon co-op game made by Guerrilla Games themselves in-house for 5+ years already. So I really think that's maybe even launching next year. The Horizon MMO started or was rumored last year by NCSoft. Horizon Zero Dawn, a remaster or a remake similar to The Last of Us Part 1 remake. Horizon Forbidden West on PC is coming, and also a Horizon Netflix show.
Oh baby. Oh baby.
And that's not even all.
That's not even all of it. And like you said, probably some stuff like Lego sets or maybe a collaboration again with Fortnite or so, all of that would be counted. But it's clear, I mean, Sony knows they've got a big franchise on their hands and they want to capitalize on it. My stance on Horizon, just so everybody, before anybody's like, Luke's a hater on Horizon. I don't hate Horizon. I just think it's fine. It's good. But I do not think that they're outstanding games. I think there's a reason they have not won any Game of the Year awards. Often because they put them and release right next to some of the best games of all time, but that's beside the point. But I think that they're good games. I thought Horizon Zero Dawn was solid, but it felt like a really good foundational release that maybe they'd just knock out of the park, like from Assassin's Creed 1 to Assassin's Creed 2, where you play 2 and you're like, I see the vision. The vision came together and it's delicious. But for me, Forbidden West just wasn't that. And I think it was because it was kind of held back a little bit by the PS4 and it just didn't feel that different for me. But it definitely is a
very
franchise.
Safe.
Yeah,
I think I would call Forbidden West mostly safe, and that's it's not even that it launched 1 week after what some people say is one of the best games of all time, Elden Ring. It's also that it was a similar open world game that did only very traditional things, while Elden Ring will be looked at for years and years and years and be pointed at, hey, they reinvented the open world genre, and to be next to that, not a good look. While if Horizon Forbidden West launched a year before, which it was originally planned to launch 1 year before it did, but of course COVID happened, then we would have looked at it from a completely, I think, kind of a different way.
Yeah. I think that's totally fair to just say it was safe. It was good, but that's where I'm at. I'm like, the Horizon games.
Did you play the DLC?
Yeah. I thought the DLC was really, really cool, specifically the last quest, which is incredibly epic and super high production value. I felt like the rest of the expansion was pretty light on content, but in general, I thought it was pretty much worth it just for that last mission, that last bit. But that's kind of what I was expecting for the entirety of Forbidden West, was crazy huge set pieces that just make you go wow. And there were some, but not, it wasn't paced very well. It just wasn't for me, but still I would give it an 8 out of 10, but for me they're just not phenomenal, crazy impressive games. I think they're pretty good.
I think it's interesting that I never I don't see anyone being or I should not say anyone, but I think 16 for anything is a lot. Because even the games that we listed here, these are all things that they're doing, is also kind of why do we need a Zero Dawn remaster? I get it for the TV show. That's probably why they're doing it. And maybe it launches in 3 years. So then it's because it came out 2017. So maybe it's 10 years after the original, which would be the same as The Last of Us. Maybe. I mean, I guess that like when playing Forbidden West, I thought, okay, it would be cool to play Zero Dawn with those graphics, with those animations for the conversations. But I just don't know if it's like worth the investment, where you can also, hopefully
Yeah.
put it in something new.
I do think the remaster thing is weird, because I like COVID made time kind of stand still, but also skip forward, so it doesn't feel like a 2-3 year period happened. But Horizon Zero Dawn was, in all fairness, 6 years ago. It has been a minute, and it was a last gen title. There is stuff they could upgrade. The facial animations were pretty rough when you look back at it, very uncanny valley. So I think there is stuff they could improve, but I think it's more that people look back at Horizon and it still looks really, really good. Whereas you look back at the original Last of Us and it's pretty rough, but then they did the remake, or not remake, they did the remaster for PS4 for The Last of Us. And so the like remake didn't really feel like that leap, because it was only kind of like a 1 generation leap instead of a 2 generation leap. So I agree. The remaster is just weird to me. It's a weird choice.
Yeah. I do think it worked out though for the show, and what we've seen with like the Witcher Netflix show, if it's like on the same quality, or if the Horizon show is at the same quality, then you will have new people joining, and they will be looking at the first game first, and if that has like PS5 on the box, I think they're more likely to buy it. So I kind of get it in that sense. It's just like on top of all the other stuff. We do have like new info on the multiplayer game as well, so that I think like, because we even had the VR game that I already forgot about this year too. But like that we now learned, or they were describing this co-op game as something that was like 2-player, which I think is interesting. I don't think I have it. I'm gonna like look up the original source, but I thought like when you would like really make a co-op Horizon game, it would at least be like 4-player, like Monster Hunter, because that would be like the pitch, right? Let's take down these robot dinosaurs with your friends. But now during this panel, according to Games Radar, who put up an article about it, or Game Reactor, I'm gonna look up the source right now. They noted that it's like 2-player, which I think is weird.
That is interesting. Yeah.
Or Games Radar, yeah. Yeah, it said like the 2. Or did they like? I think they removed it from the article. Oh no. Oh, a previous version of this article included a reference to a 2-player experience when the quote was multiplayer experience. I said it in the tweet as well. Mostly kind of surprised by the 2-player part. Curious if that is true. I didn't believe it. But so it's also not true. Okay. Well, that's the breaking news. Okay, like in that sense, we don't have much to talk about. We know there's a multiplayer game coming that could be cool. But I do think like in the broader sense, before we look at like the Star Wars Jedi game that we got, and the Black Panther game, of course, with the thumbnail. This I think is interesting, because I really hoped that after Horizon 3, like obviously they're going to do a trilogy, Guerrilla would move on. Like they would like, sure, maybe have this multiplayer game ongoing, keep releasing content for that, but then also look at, okay, what's next? But if they're saying we're going to be in the Horizon business, or whatever they're saying here, for like a very long while, and kind of that they're just getting started, it sounds like 10 years minimum to me before they make something new.
Yeah, which is a little bit, I mean, I don't know if it's a bummer, but when there's only so many studios that are world class, which is why they're considered world class, because it's very rare to get there. But it's only so, like, it's pretty rare to have a world class studio that's trying something new, a new IP, something really fresh. And when it works, it really works. You get something like The Last of Us, which came out of nowhere, you know, as a totally new IP from a world class studio back in 2013, or in many ways Horizon Zero Dawn coming out of nowhere as a fresh IP that was just totally different from anything anybody had really seen before on that scale, coming from Guerrilla. So it's a little bit of a bummer, I think, is how I would put it, that they are going to be kind of shackled to this franchise for a bit longer, especially because I think a lot of at least the people I've been talking to and my friend group and circle is starting to feel the fatigue a little bit. It felt like because they played Forbidden West so safe, it didn't really feel like a full-fledged next-gen version that got you excited again. It just felt like kind of Horizon Zero Dawn 1.5 or Horizon 0.5 Dawn. And so we'll see. Maybe they're working on some other stuff secretly, but it sounds like this is what they've got on their docket for the next good while.
I mean, I do think that if they really like what I think Horizon needs is the Game of Thrones treatment. Like, make it way more mature, make it way more serious, and like let go of Aloy. Like, give her like maybe another small thing to end her story or something. I don't know, but I wanna go away from this superhuman sort of philosophy, like story where she is like the dynamic is kind of getting old. That was kind of my critique mostly. Well, I do think the world and how these people survive is super interesting, because you look at it from the Aloy perspective all the time, it kind of gets lost. And that's why I was like hyped for the VR game, because we were not playing Aloy. But that ended up being like not the Horizon experience that I want. I don't want to climb for 8 hours. Yeah, exactly. So that's why I'm hyped for the multiplayer game, because that seems to be including like just like maybe have, instead of like Aloy as this super character, multiple characters that all have some parts of Aloy's kit but have to work together to take out this creature. So maybe those machines should be more scary actually, but because you're like super powerful as Aloy, they never really do, even if you like encounter like a huge new one.
I totally agree. I think a reboot would help, and I think I totally agree that like letting go of Aloy would help. I've said before that I think Guerrilla's really scared of letting Aloy be just a person in the world, and that part of it is because they built it and wrote it from the ground up as her being very special in this universe, very unique. But even I think there's a way to do that with her backstory where she still is not a superhuman. That's, you know, she's a human taking on massive monster robots, and it's very difficult. Like in The Last of Us, Ellie is a very, very special person, very unique in this world, potentially the most unique person in that world. But what makes the story interesting is that she is just as fragile as everybody else. And that creates this really high stakes, intense interaction every time anything of note happens. Because if she were to just get scraped or die of an infection or something, the world's forever changed. All that potential is lost. And so the stakes are super, super high because she's fragile like a human being is, but she's also very special. But because Aloy is such a superhuman, it never feels like there's any risk or stakes. So I totally agree. And I mean, to kind of shift a little bit while keeping in the same general area of PlayStation and everything, just to touch on this real quick because I saw somebody in chat mention it, so I want to discuss this before we lose it. Here's the article, Mr. Joe Raptor. The one and only Neil Druckman is taking over at Naughty Dog because the co-president Evan Wells is retiring at the end of this year. So what that means is Neil Druckman will be the only president of Naughty Dog, no longer a co-president, and he will be helming the ship all by himself. It's not that he's leaving. It's not that he's been fired. He's retiring because he's been at Naughty Dog for 25 years and has built one of the most successful game studios in history. I mean, he's been there since 1998. So it makes sense. And Druckman, he was promoted as co-president alongside Wells in 2020. So presumably this is something they've been expecting to happen for a while. And this is the year that it's going to wrap up.
I do think someone will help him, though, because Neil, with the show now as well, and with the potentially third game that he's making now too in Lost of Us universe, has his plate full already. I want Neil to focus on the creative side and not the studio management side. But
it does make me wonder if his attention's been split too much, because we've seen he's working on something on another game. And what capacity that is, we're not entirely sure. If he's in the office every single day supervising stuff, or if he's just taking more of a creative role. But then also, he was working on the very successful show where he was on set a lot. He filmed and directed his own episode and was very involved there, and that's been tremendously successful. And this was all happening at the same time that apparently the development on The Last of Us Factions has been stumbling and hasn't been coming together. Is that because of a lack of attention? Is it because it's just not a great idea to begin with? Like, I'm not really sure, but it does start to make me wonder if he's going to be spread really thin, and if what makes Naughty Dog really special over the last decade, which has been a lot of his direct involvement in some of their biggest games, or in all of their games that they've put out, makes me wonder if they'll be able to retain that magic with him being spread more thin. I don't know.
That's why, again, I think someone will step up to, do the more president role, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he said in a letter, says Chris, he said in a letter he's still the head of creative. Yeah, but what I mean is, like, you can be the creative director of something, and that's like broad strokes, everything goes past you. Well, not everything, like big things go in front of you and you give approval on. But then there's also creative directing, or directing, where you're in the office every single day supervising everything. Just look at Raising Kratos, that documentary about the making of God of War and that reboot, where Cory Barlog is in the office every single day supervising everything, all these meetings, looking at everything. That's a director actively inside the team, whereas a creative director could be somebody doing that same thing in the creative side, but it could also mean that they are working on a bunch of other stuff and they just kind of pop in to see how things are going. Kind of like Todd Howard in that Indiana Jones game where he's like an executive producer, blah, blah, blah. But anyway.
Yeah, but I want like him to be full focused on the game and the show. So I hope someone is like doing all the
business stuff.
Yeah, the business stuff. I just don't see Neil do that. I don't know. But I think it was mostly just the name that, I don't know what the behind the scenes going on is, but it seems like he didn't have much time be on the set and then also manage Naughty Dog at the same time.
Yeah. But either way, love it or hate him, whether you love Neil Druckman and what he's done with Naughty Dog, or if you absolutely hate him, Naughty Dog is only going to get more and more Neely over the next few years.
Neelified.
That sounds like a very vicious crime. I committed neilography on something. Okay, but let's shift forward and talk about what Access the Animus tweeted out. This little tidbit about Assassin's Creed, kind of confirming something we had already known. But why don't you give us the rundown on this?
Yeah, so someone at Ubisoft on LinkedIn was like, "Hey, we're looking for like people to work on Red. It's gonna be the biggest blockbuster for 2024." They just dropped the date, the year, and they removed it. But again, X the Animus got the tweet and the screenshot, so big thumbs up to them. We've been talking about this for a long time. This, of course, the Japan game, the RPG from the Odyssey makers, and the one that I'm looking forward to the most of all the Assassin's Creed games that are coming up. And I agree. It's probably going to be up there with the biggest blockbuster for 2024, but it depends on if GTA 6 comes out.
Yeah. It's going to be a tough probably 6 months for any game that releases around GTA 6.
It's interesting because Odyssey also released like a few weeks before Red Dead 2. So maybe Quebec is like, once again, damn. And why we're saying this, because if you would ask me right now if GTA 6 is coming out next year, I would say no. But we do have the fact that Take-Two is like publicly in May, they said, we're going to make $5 billion this year. Next year, we're going to make $8 billion, and we're not going to say how. And like the only possible thing is GTA. Like the $3 billion bump, sure, they could maybe launch Borderlands 4, BioShock. But are those two games going to make $3 billion together?
I don't think so. Like $3 billion for a video game release is ridiculous. That is
Yeah.
so much money. It's like specifically
Only
single player
GTA
games.
can do that.
Only
Only
GTA
can do that.
or like Fortnite makes billions. So if they have like an online game that they know is going to be massively successful, then they could say
You
that.
don't know though with an online game, and that usually that would be like saying to investors, yeah, this gamble we're going for, like it's gonna be 50-50, but we think it's gonna hit. No, you're saying that
Yeah.
because you really have something.
Yeah, the only thing I think it's got to be GTA, or they're gonna do some hybrid thing where they launch like a next gen GTA Online, which I would presume they do at the same time as Grand Theft Auto 6, but like GTA Online with next gen everything would make billions. I don't think that's that big of a gamble, but especially if they shut down the current iteration of GTA Online. But yeah, it's got to be something GTA related, because I don't think any other single player games would generate that kind of revenue.
You think they would like launch the online first and then the single player, not the other way around?
I'm really not sure. Traditionally, of course, they release single player and then they kind of ease into the online, but that's usually because the single player is the priority, and then online stuff gets added, and then they support that using some of the funds they make from the launch. But with GTA, the moneymaker for GTA is GTA Online, so it wouldn't surprise me at all if they take a new novel approach to how they pitch this and sell it. I think it probably still gets released as single player, just like, you know, Red Dead 2, where it launches kind of side by side, but I wouldn't put anything out of court,
Yeah, I mean, they must be looking at it as well and thinking, we've been working on this game for so long. Like 2013 was when GTA 5 came out. So if they're looking at, because the rumors were already that they had like these huge plans for like multiple cities, like a huge map, and they were already like, we can like make this, but it's gonna take a while. We can better just launch this game and then in a year add a new map to it. Which I think, like, I do think that they learned from the fact that they can have, in a perfect world, a GTA Online that is like super successful, and a single player part that also gets content over time that will also be successful. So maybe they're doing that. And I mean, if GTA Online was like the first look at the new map and stuff, like the Vice City that they're building for GTA 6, I think more people might actually play that because they're like hungry for the single player. And then when the single player comes, they will still play that. So it might be smart.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not assuming anything with GTA 6, because this will be almost certainly, nothing is certain, but almost certainly this is going to be one of the biggest games of the decade in terms of sales, in terms of hype and interest. It's going to be ridiculous.
Almost 100%. It's going to like outsell many games like combined in 1 week.
Yeah.
We're not ready.
Yeah.
I think like even PlayStation Network or like it's gonna go down. Like there gonna be crazy stuff. Everyone will buy this game.
Yeah. I mean, I saw on Twitter earlier today, Take-Two was trending, and it was trending on Twitter because people were theorizing maybe PlayStation will buy it, and that will they'll make GTA 6 exclusive. And I'm like, that just the money literally is not there. And even if they did, there's so much money involved in just releasing this thing across all platforms that they would not do that. But
and then do the car exclusive to PlayStation.
Yeah, they'll do something like that. But GTA 6 is going to be ridiculously massive, and so I'm not assuming anything. You know, even something as simple as, well, they release the single player and then the DLC and the online stuff comes after. I'm like, I'm not even assuming the online comes after. You never know, because the online is the bread and butter for this thing. And
they have to do PC though day one. They can't launch that later anymore.
I would think so.
That's like a bad look. They've been doing that.
But at the same time, it seems as though, and maybe I'm wrong, it seems as though most of the hackers and crap comes from the PC side of things. So maybe they're like, we're going to launch this on console and we're going to really take our time getting the PC thing for GTA Online settled. Because talk about a console seller, it's not selling to a specific console, but people, I have no doubt, if they somehow still do not have a current gen console and they're an active gamer, I would not be shocked at all if people start to like sell their shoes to go get a PS5 or Xbox to play GTA 6. The level of hype is going to be ridiculous.
What if Sony gets 1 week early, like the game? Like they usually have the Rockstar deals. They of course famously had Agent that never came to fruition. They had I think even a FIDA game that also never launched. Or like they do have like the bundles with like PS3 and stuff for GTA. They had like the GTA Online for PS5 that you could like play it for free, I think, and also get like $100,000 each month. So they have been like in bed with Rockstar. Like, what if they're like a bill for a week early access? I don't.
That would be wild. I would think that Rockstar. I mean, maybe they do something where it's like, yeah, you get early access with PlayStation, or maybe they just bundle it, because they could easily, like Ubisoft's doing for Frontiers of Pandora, they could be like, oh no, 5-day early access is locked behind this $130 edition of the game, and people will buy that, and that's probably worth more to them than the Sony exclusive deal.
Yeah, probably. And then they can like have the exclusive mission or something on Sony.
Yeah, everybody I know is going to be playing it. Nikki's going to be playing it. Everybody I went to college with is going to be playing it. Probably Lachlan, even though he's only 2, is going to be playing it. Like everybody's going to be playing it.
It's like what happened with Hogwarts Legacy, but like times 10. Like Hogwarts Legacy was also like, do you even play what you're playing this game as well? And did like
everybody, yeah, it was crazy. But
yeah, I made a list of other 2024 games. I'm not sure if you want to put that up because I think it's already looking crazy. We got Red, Dragon Age, Rise of the Ronin, which looked kind of cool. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Star Wars Outlaws, which I'm really excited about. You almost forgot about it, but Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League is also coming next year. I put Wolverine on there because those were the rumors from Jeff Grubb, but I could totally see them taking more time. We got that Prince of Persia side-scroller, Lost Crown. Again, Take-Two is going to do something. They want to make those 3 extra billions on top of their 5. So, yeah, it's either going to be GTA 6, Borderlands 4, Bioshock. Maybe they will have GTA 6 and Borderlands. I think it's time for Borderlands as well. And we will probably have a new Switch next year, too.
Yeah,
Hellblade 2.
Do you? Also. Yeah, Hellblade 2 we should be getting. Hopefully a better trailer, too. Yeah.
Avowed.
Yeah, Avowed. Yeah, there's... it's
going to be crazy.
Is Fable, is that coming next year? Or is that
no? That's like far. That was like the only game, or like one of the only games. Like I think all the that was one that did not have a date yet. Just like some of the others that were revealed for the first time, like Clockwork Revolution and the game from the We Happy Few makers today.
Yeah,
Midnight something.
Okay. Well, yeah, there's a lot there. By the way, thank you for the $2 Alphatron. Maybe it's that medieval game they've been working on. If it's
like a new Rockstar game.
Yeah, new Rockstar game. Because there was, let me see if I can find it in my mentions.
Yeah, Project something. Yeah, I know the rumor, but like they are all hands on deck on GTA 6. Like everyone, they're even slowing down. I think the GTA Online support. They're of course doing the Red Dead Online is not even being supported anymore. They are still doing the remaster though, which we of course talked about before. But I would love a Rockstar like medieval like game, like something new from them. We talked about that before. Like, are they going to do Red Dead 3 after this? I hope something new. But I think right now they would be stupid to not be all working on GTA 6.
Yeah. No, I mean it's such a moneymaker, and it's a high stakes game. It's got to launch polished and refined, and I have no doubt that they're holding people to the same standard as always for Rockstar quality and polish. And it's just, oh man, what a crazy day that's gonna be when that tweet drops. It's just Rockstar and it's just the number 6 or something. Like the internet's going to explode. Because I remember I don't think GTA 5 was as big a deal as GTA 6 is going to be. And I can remember the day that the GTA 5 trailer dropped, and I wasn't even really actively playing video games like hardcore. I was playing in chess tournaments and stuff. I was a giga nerd in another sect. Okay.
And now you're doing Warhammer.
Now I'm doing Warhammer. Someone help. Send help. Oh, what happened? real quick, just to mention this, from Samaya, I think. Do you guys have experience with RG Ally? What's your experience so far? I have one. That thing is phenomenal. It's ridiculous. Speaking of Warhammer, you can play Warhammer Darktide at 1080p, getting like 50 to 60 frames, running around doing that on a handheld. It's outrageous. It's really good.
And then play for 45 minutes.
And play for 45 minutes before the thing melts and the battery dies. The battery
I
is
heard
not
some
great,
bad things though. Like someone, I'm not sure. I think it was ACG. Is that the reviewer's name? Like they got like 4 of those things, and the SD card reader broke and stuff. So
Oh, really?
Actually, yeah, they weren't like too hot on it.
Interesting. Yeah, I've had no
It's
issues.
still like a first year, of course.
Yeah, and I'm sure like the manufacturing settles as time goes by, but my personal anecdotal experience, take it or leave it, but my personal experience has been that it's very good. Battery life is pretty good if you manually toggle it. There's like a little command thing you can bring up on the left side by pressing one of the buttons, and then it's kind of like if you hold down the home button on a Switch, it's like a quick access menu, kind of like a control panel, and you can toggle it to go to like 10 watts. It normally runs at 25, but you can toggle it to 10 watts, and that will greatly improve your battery life, but of course performance will hurt. So like I was playing Dave the Diver on an airplane flying out to Minnesota, and I set it to 10 watts because it's an 8-bit game and I don't need it running at 200 frames. It's fine. And that lasted me the whole plane ride, part of the car ride. Like it lasted probably 2-3 hours once I did that. But yeah, if you're trying to run something like Red Dead 2 on that thing, it's going to look great, but it's not going to last super long. And it gets hot. It gets real hot. It's kind of crazy. But yeah, I love that thing. Anyway,
Nice.
Shifting forward, as we mentioned in the title of the stream, no shocker, no surprise whatsoever, but Respawn has started development of its next Star Wars Jedi game. It looks like, even with all the crap surrounding the launch of Jedi Survivor, it was successful enough that they're moving on. Yeah. And that's kind of the age-old story with this. We like a game that's polished is better than the game that's not. However, some broken games, if the hype is there and if the reviews are decent, they still will sell crazy numbers of copies and be very successful. Cyberpunk was still considered a financial success even after the horrible launch, just because so many people bought it, even knowing it was broken. And with
for
Jedi
that
Survivor,
game though, it could have been double by now if they did not like botch the launch. Like comparing, I think you would like in terms of like caliber. I think you could compare Cyberpunk to Red Dead. Red Dead 2 is now at like 53 million. Cyberpunk like sold I think 11 million in one day, and then it like struggled to get to like the 19 million or 20 million that they have now. Wow, obviously it would have been way more.
Yeah, the long term, I think it's like, if you think about it as a chart, it's like the initial sales spike a ton and then it trails, but something like Red Dead, it trails very slowly, whereas Cyberpunk, it dropped a lot because word of mouth was terrible, but then it kind of picked up once Edge Runners came out and other things came out to help it. But I mean, the moral of the story, unfortunately, is that broken games are not necessarily failures. They might not do as well as they could have, but they can still be successful. So it's not like the poor performance and the negative reviews for Jedi Survivor are going to have a huge impact, I don't think. So setting that aside, all of this comes from Reddit user Hard to Decor. Love it. Who posted the job description off of a job listing that was posted on Respawn's website in the games or gaming leaks and in rumors subreddit. And it's for a principal game writer. And it basically just mentions that the next game is in the works. If you get the job, you'll be working on this series as a principal writer responsible for writing dialogue, scenes, story treatment, supporting text for the game, blah, blah, blah. No shocker. We figured that there was going to be another one, and it seems as though there is. So
yeah. Also interesting that it's going to be on Unreal Engine 5, which I think the job listing said as well. So experience on Unreal Engine 5 is like preferred. So that's like hopefully that means That will be a bit more polished, although those are of course different things. But I don't know what happened with like the first one and now the second one. You really thought that they would have learned, but sadly not. I think like the second one was even in a worse state than the first one, sadly. And Stick, the game director, always said that they wanted to make a trilogy. And if you finished Jedi Survivor, you kind of know that they have another story planned, and I think it's gonna be great. I don't know if it was like the period in my life because I was just like going through the breakup and stuff that I just wasn't really feeling the game. I still am looking back at some fond memories, but as we discussed on like very early episodes of this, it just tried new things that just didn't work. So the core linear story with like cool cinematic moments was still there, but the new things they added, more cosmetic options, the open world exploration, it didn't work because it was not engaging enough. There were not exciting upgrades, and even though they added cool outfits, you would still very often find a new paint skin for BD1. And
I totally agree. I think the crappy rewards for exploration, huge ding, huge negative. It makes it really hard to feel like it's worth exploring when all you get is a shorter mullet. Congratulations. Are you glad you spent 20 minutes searching for this? So I think that was a huge ding that they need to figure out for the next game. And then the open sections to me felt like Lost Legacies, where it's a typical level, but now it's bigger. And it's like, okay, so now it just takes me a little longer to ride. And sometimes that's worth it if the spectacle is there, kind of like James Cameron discussing Avatar. He's like, sometimes things are worth having if they're just fun to look at. That's okay. If the spectacle's there, that can justify its existence. But a lot of the levels in Jedi Survivor were not particularly beautiful. They were pretty bland and samey. And even then, if the level design was awesome, the performance was so crappy that it looked like somebody took a handful of Vaseline and wiped it all over your monitor. So it just never looked that great, which is a bummer because when Jedi Survivor's working great, it is a very beautiful game. There's a lot of really impressive stuff going on. It's just at launch, playing on any of the platforms, it looked horrible because of that terrible AMD FSR2 upscaling, and it just was not good. So we'll see.
And it's still not way better. Like, I think you will probably do a video in a few months going back to that game.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't think they've really changed much, which is kind of crazy. But on the other hand, for them, it was probably the best time to release, because if they haven't even fixed it right now, or maybe they're doing like a sunken cost like a thing, like we can like spend more time fixing this game, or we can already work on the third one.
Yeah.
Let's do that instead.
It's just frustrating because you're right. They released 2 of these games now that were pretty buggy and had a lot of problems at launch, and they still are selling well. And it's a testament to how good the game is at the core of that. But it's really frustrating that even after that happening twice, they haven't learned and they're just doing the same thing, which to me is like, okay, well, they clearly don't see it as a priority. They don't see it as like, we have to polish before putting it out. They just don't care. And the sales numbers probably reflect that. And so they're like, oh yeah, no, it's fine. It's whatever. Which is really too bad. It's
just post a tweet on launch day that you say you're sorry and you're gonna fix it, and everyone will forget it in a few weeks.
Dude, it would be so funny if somebody they scheduled the tweet ahead of time, so they accidentally published the tweet like a day early.
It came out. Yeah, that would have been awesome.
That would be so funny. Well, and Samaya, I'll tell you what, I have a 4090, no flex, just saying, people give me crap for this all the time. I get it. You can tease me. But I have a 4090. It still runs like garbage on this thing. It's just not a great game.
Even on higher end, it was like doing even worse. Like there was some problem with it. But overall, and like one thing, if you like turned off ray tracing, it like significantly improved your performance as well. And that's what happened on console. You could not do that. So yeah, you were like on this performance mode with this heavy ray tracing that you did not really want. Yeah, good luck with that. You can't turn that off.
Yeah, which I don't know why. It didn't even like Digital Foundry did the side by side. I was like, they really could have turned that off. The ray tracing thing, maybe it's a hot take. Okay, maybe it's a hot take. I think the ray tracing craze that has been going on for the last couple of years hopefully is going to go away. But I think in maybe 5-6 years, we're going to look back at ray tracing in the same light as like that NVIDIA hair physics stuff that they did back in the early 2010s. I think it's going to be viewed as like, yeah, no, it's cool, but it is not like the end all be all.
Stable performance.
Yeah, a lot of like, just look at what Epic is doing with that. What is it called? It's like something like that, or Lumos engine, whatever they call it. Their global illumination engine, which is not doing any sort of like actual path tracing or anything, but the results are very, very good. There are some artifacts in certain situations that are pretty ugly, but apparently it's been getting a lot better. And I think that those solutions that kind of mimic ray tracing and path tracing are just way more practical for video games. I just don't see the justification. Cyberpunk with path tracing is cool, but it's not practical like for actually playing the video game. Nobody needs path tracing to enjoy a game.
And how many people are actually gonna see it like that? Right?
Yeah, only assholes like me that have nice hardware. That's sorry. We're late enough in the video. I think I'm fine.
Yeah. Let's go for Black Panther then. The thumbnail of the stream. Maybe we should like
Jordan's like shut up.
Talk about that for the next time. The thing that we have in the thumbnail, we should probably talk about it earlier in the show. But yeah, it is exciting. And there were already rumors about this, but there's a new Black Panther third-person single-player game coming from a new studio, in collaboration with EA, based in Seattle. And they want our players to enable players to feel what it's like to be worthy of the Black Panther mantle in a unique, story-driven way. They're still in early development, so this is mostly just to hire people. They're like, hey, come work for us if you want to like make Wakanda. And I saw some people go ham and say this is an open world game, but not in the Marvel announcement, not in the tweets. They never say open world. What they do say is, though, we're excited to be working with Marvel Games to ensure that we craft every aspect of Wakanda, its technology, its heroes, and our own original story with the attention to detail and authenticity that the world of Black Panther deserves. And that they also the studio is called Cliffhanger Games. Basically, they said that they are going to like make the world of Black Panther, but not that it will be like an open world game. So I'm looking at like Dead Island 2, God of War, probably similar to that. But I think it could be exciting.
Yeah, and it's involving some really established talent already. The studio's headed up by Kevin Stevens. No relation that I'm aware of. It's spelled the same, but no relation as far as I'm aware. I should just go in and pretend that I'm his son. I don't know. Let me in.
Whoa.
But this guy is the former VP and studio head of Monolith, who, I mean, that's a very well-established studio that's done some really good work in the past.
Shadow of War.
Mm-hmm. Some of my favorite... Well, Shadow of Mordor was like one of my favorite games of all time. It was just so unique and awesome. Shadow of War, I think, is now a decent game, but it was built on that crappy loot box thing. And it, even though they stripped that out, it still just doesn't click together super
I looked past that though. I love that game. I think the skill for 2017, like flying around, like the sort of siege battles and the insane like depth of that Nemesis system, where you were constantly surprised. Like it was like we're of course now in the AI, like nothing is too crazy anymore. But like 2017, we of course saw it in Shadow of Mordor already. But like the extra, like that they would remember how you had killed them the previous time, or if you like had burned them with your flaming sword, they would come back burned and be like, "I'm taking my revenge." Like there were so many different ways that it could go that I was constantly like, damn, I remember you from a few hours ago, and you remember me as well. That was like
so cool, man. They need to do something else with that Nemesis system, because it is one of the coolest and most underutilized systems in all of gaming. Like I understand they trade, or I don't think it was a trade, but I think it was a patent. But they like patented it, and so other studios couldn't use it and do their own version of it. And it's just too bad, man, because that system is so freaking cool. It is so cool. So I agree. But yeah, apparently this game is coming. It's very, very early. So they announced they were forming this studio back in 2021. However, that's when they were starting to form the studio, and now they're looking to hire people to come on and start helping. So maybe the studio was established last year and now they're getting to work. It's still probably in all likelihood like 3, 4, 5 years out.
Yeah.
But we'll see eventually, I'm sure. Alphatron, thank you for the 2. Speaking of Monolith, where's that Wonder Woman IP?
Good one.
No idea.
I wanted to put it on the 2024 list as well, because Shadow of War was the final game that they made, which was 2017, same year that Horizon Zero Dawn came out, that Origins came out. Those teams already made a new game, Valhalla and Forbidden West.
I vaguely remember, didn't they say something about they worked on, kind of like Rocksteady did, they worked on a prototype for something else that was abandoned? Or am I just totally making that up?
Maybe.
I don't know. I might be a liar, guys. I'm not sure. It's been a while.
What I could see happen, because now, of course, Embracer has the Lord of the Rings license. What if, like, because there's something going on with Monolith now, especially because this VP is like leaving and starting his own studio. So you would think that, like the Wonder Woman game, we saw that in 2021 at the Game Awards with like a teaser trailer, and it's still not. There's still nothing. Shadow of War was announced in like, it was like one of those first games that was like announced in like March or like even May, and then came out a few months later. It's kind of what the Fallout 4 trend, of course, started. And now they announced this game, and we still don't know anything. It's yeah, kind of concerning.
Yeah, it is. There's a funk, there's a stank surrounding this. It is just odd that there's been 2 years that have, or almost 2 years that have gone by without any word. It is strange.
Yeah, and yeah, again, maybe they did something like it's similar to Warner Montreal that also did Arkham Origins and then Gotham Knights. Like like all these Warner Brothers studios, they were like really poorly managed, with Rocksteady as well. Now after Arkham Knight 2015, they still don't have a game out. It will be 9 years when Suicide Squad releases, which is crazy.
I mean, part of it also, we've talked a lot in the last few episodes about retaining talent and attracting talent. Yeah. That's part of what this Black Panther announcement is they're just being like, look, we're making this thing, come work for us. We want the talent. We want you to come and work for us because you're excited to. And one of the big stories for Warner Brothers games for the last like 3-4 years has been, oh, they're considering selling it off. Their entire games division. There were even talks of selling off the games division leading right up to Hogwarts Legacy. So think about if you're working at a company and you're trying to decide if you want to like move your family there and commit your life to this company for the next 10 years. If all the news breaking around it is like, oh no, they're about to shut down and sell off to another company and close studios and stuff, you're probably not going to feel that much loyalty to that company. And so you might not ever really connect with it or stick to it. And I think that's probably what we've seen with a lot of these more senior leadership positions freeing up with people leaving to go work on other stuff because there's so much uncertainty and mismanagement there.
And you, of course, now also have the whole DC situation where they, of course, have to get these Flash movies and Blue Beetle and Shazam out this year, while James Gunn, of course, takes over and starts a new era. And he wants to incorporate the gaming part more of like, or like he wants to maybe have some sort of collab between the movies and the games. And where does this Wonder Woman fall into that? I don't think they announced the new Wonder Woman thing. So this probably, so it's like, it just is weird. Like, what is this game going to be? It will probably be its own unique thing, which could be cool, but it's kind of against what they're now trying to do. I don't know, man. Suicide Squad as well. Maybe it was also, once again, a live service gear grindy game, and they looked at Gotham Knights and Suicide Squad, and they were like, back to the drawing board, guys. Like,
maybe.
Oh, again.
I mean,
a lot of things.
I kind of prefer that over them releasing another pile of garbage, but you never know. Thank you, Alphatron, also again for the 5. You've been very generous today. Thank you, my friend. Also, what do y'all think about the fully fleshed out open world Lord of the Rings RPG? Yeah, if people forgot about this, back in August of 2022, it was announced that Take-Two's publishing label, Private Division, announced that they were working with Weta Workshop, which is the production company that created all the special effects for Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings trilogy. And they were working on a new game, quote, set in the Middle-earth universe of J.R.R. Tolkien. We haven't seen anything, as far as I'm aware.
So it's not a game studio that's making it?
They're saying, so the head of Private Division, Michael Warroj, maybe, said, quote, "We are thrilled to partner with Weta Workshop to publish a game set in such an extraordinary and celebrated universe," adding that no entity is better equipped than the team at Weta Workshop to create a distinctive new Middle-earth gaming experience. So they imply that Weta Workshop is creating the gaming experience. But Weta, as far as I'm aware, doesn't make video games. They make special effects. So I'm very confused.
Yeah, man.
I
don't know. Embracer. Where do we start?
Yeah, they say like Monolith. Maybe it's Monolith working on it, and then
no, that's not possible because it's owned by Warner. Like unless, but then and they're making the Wonder Woman game. Like they're not big enough to do two things. I mean, it would be like if I want one. Like my only thing with Shadow of Mordor was that it was in Mordor. And I did not like the brown environments. Like having a game like that, but in the freaking whole world of Tolkien, like that would be amazing.
Yeah.
But
well, I mean, they say like we are thrilled to partner with Weta Workshop to publish. All right, I just read that. It's a privilege to create a new game set in Middle Earth, especially one that's so different from what fans have played previously. Said Arnie Wolken, head of Interactive at Weta Workshop. So maybe they've made a new like sub-team within Weta Workshop to actually make video games.
I want to say when I hear you say Weta Workshop, I don't know. But yeah. Okay. Yeah. High chances it will not be good. Sounds like a new thing you haven't played, but you're saying it's like an open world RPG. Well, we don't need you to change the formula. We just want an open world RPG set in that universe.
No, but I don't totally new though. It's different.
Yeah. Sounds like a weird way of saying we don't have the budget. We're making a side scroller, but it's still open. I don't know.
It'll have Web 3.
Yeah.
Oh God. Anyway, a handful of stuff to go through. Pretty interesting week, all things considered.
Yeah. With in July, it's been like normally this like dread. Yeah.
Yeah, normally it's just dead during this time, but a handful of things to talk about. It's been a joy. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out with us, for all the super chats and everything. We greatly appreciate all of you. Do you have any closing thoughts, Mr. Doraptor? What are you going to be doing for the rest of the week?
Actually, let me look in my calendar. Not a lot. It's been like... No, I have like a dinner tomorrow. I'm gonna do Magic the Gathering.
Ooh, baby.
And then these last 2 weeks of July will be kind of slower. So we're like Joyce and Dennis, who work for my channel, are gonna take the time off, so they will not be working. And I have a holiday planned in Barcelona for like the final week of July. But yeah, we'll still be like looking out for like the Spider-Man panel that is happening next week. I will do a video on that. I will be doing the podcast, but apart from that, not a lot.
Yeah,
so it will be like
a
chill time.
Yeah. On my end, I think it's going to be similar. Just kind of hanging out. I'm gonna paint some minifigures.
Oh yeah.
You were talking about Legos earlier. I got another Lego set for everybody that is gonna hang out on the live streams. If you didn't see this, it's a pirate ship. Because we were talking about Black Flag, and then I saw this on sale at Target, so I figured I had
How many pieces?
This is so it's a 3-in-1. You can either build a pirate ship, a little like tavern, or an island with 2 little ships and a skull. I'm gonna build the pirate ship though, and this is 1,260 pieces. So that's nothing. I think the Lego Titanic was what that Lego Titanic. I think was like 9,000-10,000, something like that. Hold on, I'm gonna see. We're looking.
Yeah, we have Nell saying the Skull and Bones Lego set.
Skull and Bones Lego set. At least this will release. Yeah, 9,090 pieces is what that like
9
that
out of
thing
10,
was. Yeah. So this is child's play, literally. This is fine. Anyway, I hope all of you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Samaya, thank you real quick for the super chat coming in at the last second. I'm so hyped for AC Mirage after experiencing the worst AC yet. Valaha. I have that soundbite.
Assassin's Creed Valhalla.
And I haven't played as an assassin since Syndicate. I think we're all pretty excited just for something that's kind of a return to form. And that's a little shorter, a little more lean. I think it's going to feel really nice just to get back into the groove of being an assassin for the sake of being an assassin. It's going to be a good time.
Yeah.
Stream on Friday, Luke? Yes. And I might be back on stream here in just a little bit. So keep an eye out for that. But anyway, thank you everybody for hanging out. Much love. Thanks. Stay safe,
Thanks
everybody.
For the donations. Thanks for the questions. Thanks for everything.
Yes.
We will be back next week.
See you next week. Bye-bye, everybody.